How are you enjoying your body weight exercises at home?
Oh, do you know what? I can imagine right now that I'm surrounded by people that will appreciate my standpoint on this. Where if you have equipment at home, you've got a suspension trainer or a TRX, you can make a workout. But when I see people jumping around, to time or to workouts, and suddenly every trainer, I'm not sure if this is the same in America, but in the UK, everyone free workout, join me. We're going to do 300 crunches and loads of jump squats. For me, I've actually started running, which is probably one of the things that I've been portrayed as anti-running. I'm not anti-running, I'm just pro-resistance training. And you get to the point where you're so strongly trying to say to people, resistance training is your way forward. High protein diet resistance training, you're not going to go back. That you do become anti-hit and anti-running. But yeah, I've become a full-on Strava wanker. I've even got a Garmin now to time my running times. I'm ashamed to say it out loud, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Do you think maybe it was a little problematic how connected people were to the gym, or do you think that's a healthy thing? I mean, for people to be taken out of gyms just for a handful of weeks, really, it hasn't been that long. Do you think people should be able to handle this a little easier, or do you think, or are you finding it a pain in the ass yourself? Sounds like you just switched to like some running. So that doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal to you.
It's for me the mentality I've developed, and I'm certainly not the best trained in this live here, but going to the gym is a mental thing as well, where you pack your bag, you time your pre-workout if you have one, you go there. That hour there is not for emails, it's not for anything apart from your working sets, rest, get in, get out. And if you don't accomplish all the sets you want, it kind of eats away at you. And the same way that when we select cafes to go to, I'm going to have a coffee, do my emails, I'm going to work on this strategy, do this presentation. We've had all avenues taken away from us, which means that we all suddenly have to accomplish all these things from home. And it's the adapting part that's quite tough. People could say in the same sense, we're reliant on our gyms as we're reliant on our coffee shops. So it's one of those things that I think in the future, if this is going to be a recurring theme with COVID and another viral disease, we do need to potentially have a little box at home with equipment that we can use to resistance train, and we should have a coffee machine at home so we can get work done. But I think we've all certainly realized how dependent we are on these things and how important it not just the gym is for our mental health, but having that routine. Because leaving the house, getting away from your kids, even getting away from your friends is quite a really important part of everyday routine in life.
Is there anything you're enjoying about running that's different from lifting, or do you hate it?
I can get my step count done in an impressive time. So I bought a PlayStation. As soon as the country got locked down, I was like, that's it, Call of Duty. I'm getting a PlayStation. And to go out for an hour and come back and hit my 10,000 steps, I feel accomplished. So even though I'm there at 4 p.m. playing PlayStation, I'm laying there going, yeah, but don't worry, I've hit my steps today. So running is the best way to get your steps done in a short period of time.
Have you always had a step goal for yourself? I think like a step goal is one of the coolest things where people can get more, build the habit of being less sedentary without having to like exercise, just building that habit. And have you always had a step goal for yourself, or did you develop that because of quarantine?
I think it's something that I really like to establish into my clients. And then I felt like a bit of a fraud giving out the information. I'm sure we're all guilty of not taking our own advice, especially with training, where we're like, you need to dial back your training to your client. and then you realize that you're overtrained and you're sore and you're doing way too much volume. So after a while, I was like, you know what, James, you should take your own advice here. But in a bid where I'm not anti-cardio, but I am pro step count, I am pro people being active. And rather than saying to people, you must park really far away from the shops, you must take the stairs, you must do this, you give them a step count to work towards, and suddenly they do it themselves. And it sounds pretty bad to treat your clients like children, but I've done that for years where, if you're in a room with a child and you're like, do not go through that door, they'll do it. They'll go through it straight away. Mm-hmm. But if you kind of give them the freedom with an overpinning principle of, look, it's just 10,000 steps a day, they will become proactive. They will walk more. And without the word cardio coming into question, they're almost upping their own anyway. And it is a bit different to athletes, to normal people. But then again, I found some of my clients do go out jogging on their own prerogative if I set them a step count. But for me, it's one of those things that, especially when dieting, when reducing calories, people then realize, they go, James has told me my steps are going to reduce when I cut my calories. And then I realize it myself. some days I'm like, oh, I'm knackered. I'm well trained. Oh, look, I've done 3,000 steps. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go for a walk. But I'm very fortunate to be in Sydney, where we've got amazing coastals and nice places to go for walks. But with people at the moment, they can work their hardest to get their steps up in their house. And even cleaning, I find if I make sure I've got my iPhone on me or my Garmin watch when I potter around the house folding clothes, you can get your step count up.
Go
ahead.
What are some other, I guess, basic habits that you think people should have as far as their fitness is concerned? Something simple like getting steps in. Like, a lot of us don't think about that. So what are some other basic things that you really don't think a lot of people are thinking about when it does come to keeping body fat off, losing fat, etc.?
Sleep for me is a huge, it's something I've only really realized in the last few years, how important sleep is. And being a busy personal trainer on the floor, I was having a coffee at 4 or 5 p.m. and it never really occurred to me why I couldn't fall asleep. I set myself quite strict bedtimes, and I've even developed a bit of sleep stress where if I know I'm not going to get adequate sleep, it's already in my head for the next day. But hold on, I'm going to have to dial back and probably not accomplish as much as before. But with my clients now, sleep is a huge underpinning principle. And in periods where I know that my sleep's going to be disrupted, I almost give myself the break away from training or seeking progressive fat loss. Or whenever I'm cutting weight for a comp, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I will have to go sober for 3 or 4 weeks before to ensure that my sleep is good enough to ensure that I can actually cut my calories. Because without the sleep, I can't cut calories. And without giving up alcohol, I can't get the adequate sleep. So it's kind of this knock-on effect that goes throughout. And again, I find that if I focus on my sleep, then my alcohol intake is reduced as a byproduct. Whereas if someone said, don't drink alcohol, they'd be like, nah, it's part of my life. I need my gin and tonics and my beers. So I think sleep like steps is that kind of overpinning principle that creates good habits underneath.
You have a lot of people misunderstand your message sometimes because you are joking around a lot and you're having a lot of fun. Are people like sometimes thinking that you're serious? Like, there's one video where you show like the best exercise to burn fat, but you continually, after every exercise you show, you mention like eat less and move more, I think, every single time. Are some people are like, wait, those aren't the best exercises? Like, are people misunderstanding your message a lot of times and kind of getting confused even though you're just having a good time?
I think, it is. You can be very easily misunderstood, and a lot of people can not quite get the approach that you're going with. But I think that in the industry we're in, we don't need 100% of people to enjoy our message. And the sarcasm there will bring a lot of enjoyment to a lot of other people that do understand it. But I intentionally like to be polarizing. And I've said this openly before, that if I was to be sarcastic or give someone incredibly tough love, the people who I repel, I don't think would make good clients. And I would only end up refunding them a few weeks down the line when they're getting annoyed with the way it works. And you kind of bring the people that are going to be good clients closer. And even if it means that I have several thousand also sarcastic clients, they will enjoy it. Whereas the people that don't understand the sarcasm, I'm just going to grind on them eventually, and I'm just going to annoy them. And it's almost a way for me to wean people out of the funnel before they make it to the stage of being a client. And similar, if you bring this into a dating context, on a first or second date, sometimes you drop some hints about your intentions to gauge a reaction. And then sometimes they'll be like, I'm looking for something serious. And you're like, I'm so glad we've clarified this so early on in the first date so that you don't end up going into a second. So I see these videos being very much like that. So people are well aware of what kind of message I'm putting across, because if they don't like mine, there are plenty of other people that they'll get on with.